part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jenkins! Holy Buckeye!
Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we're here with our good friend Joel Guinan. Joel, back on the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, Joel, and we look forward to the next 45 minutes, hour or so, just hanging out with you guys and talking college football. So, without further ado, a lot going on. We got 1 week left of the regular season. 2 weeks left until the final committee comes out with the rankings. We just got the rankings about an hour ago. Tim Jones, Joe Guinan, first impressions.
For me, I'm happy that they finally fixed it by getting Cincinnati back in the top four. I was really nervous about that. I hope they're smart enough to keep them in there throughout the rest of the season, provided everything kind of goes status quo from here. I hope they're not toying with us. I think it's going to be good for ratings. So.
Yeah, and when you say back in, you mean in for the first time. Because this is their first time in the top four, if I remember right. Am I right about that?
For the playoff, the committee.
For the playoff committee. The AP poll has had them number two for a long time. But, AP poll just put them in their top four. And so, Joel, you're feeling pretty confident about the Houston game coming up and the conference championship, SMU, this week. You think they'll just kind of skate by those and put themselves in good position?
I think they'll be able to handle those games pretty easily. My only concern is if they have another close game and then get hammered for that, just because the committee wants to keep them out. I think it just feels like they have it out for the group of five, that you just don't have a way in unless you beat everybody by 50 points every week. And even if you're undefeated, it seems like so far this year that they've strove to keep them out, regardless. And I think that's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Winning against Notre Dame is what has set them apart from other non-power fives, because I don't think in the past with UCF and other schools like that, I don't think they even played a power five, did they? It was all just the not F. Is it FCS? Anyway, non-power fives.
I don't know if they can do it, but I feel like the committee is really trying to work Cincinnati out, even if that means getting Notre Dame in, even though they beat Notre Dame. Think about how Notre Dame is moving slowly up the line, even though their schedule at the beginning of the season looked pretty solid. But I think we've seen as the season's gone on, the teams they played against have not turned out to be what we thought they were going to be, from Florida State, Wisconsin, Virginia Tech, USC, North Carolina. These teams we thought could be pretty good this year have turned out not to be. And they haven't played a ton of close games, but their schedule has not turned out to be what we thought it was going to be. And the fact that they don't play in a conference championship hurts them a ton. If the committee finds a way to put Notre Dame in over Cincinnati, I think there's going to be an uproar and people are going to be really upset. Yeah. But also they don't respect non-power five. So I think for that reason alone and the money, I could see them saying we're going to bump Notre Dame ahead of Cincinnati, even though we have the head-to-head win.
I don't think they can do that. So just a quick recap. I don't think we did this. Tuesday night, College Football Playoff Committee came out. Top four: Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Cincinnati, followed by Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State. Did I get those right? Those are memory. So I'm not worried about Notre Dame because they don't have a conference championship. They lost head-to-head. I'm more worried about Oklahoma State. There's a potential that they could have to beat Oklahoma 2 weeks in a row, and that could put them in. So you got a Big 12 conference championship with one loss over a non-power five undefeated. But I think if they play Houston, the committee's really going to like that. Like, I think if Cincinnati wins out, they're in. win and you're in, I think, for Cincinnati.
So let me ask you this: would Oklahoma State having to play Baylor instead of playing Oklahoma twice, is that better for their odds or worse?
Better, because the committee does not respect Oklahoma, and I think there's a level of respect for Baylor.
Yeah, I don't feel like they respect Baylor either, though. I think that's part of the problem is that they've lost a couple not great games this year. Oklahoma State was a good loss. TCU was a bad loss, really bad loss.
Yeah.
And so from my perspective, if Baylor plays Oklahoma State in the conference championship, which means Oklahoma State would have to be Oklahoma, of course, to get there. I'm just not sure that they're going to take this conference seriously.
How does Baylor get in the conference championship?
If Oklahoma loses to Oklahoma State, they would play each other in the championship.
Then it would be if Oklahoma loses to Oklahoma State, Baylor would be in. If Oklahoma State loses to Oklahoma, it would be Oklahoma State again.
Correct.
Is that what it is?
Because of the head-to-head.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I think they're going to be – I don't think it's going to be an issue because I don't see Oklahoma State winning both of them. They don't want to put Oklahoma in again. So, yeah, I honestly think Cincinnati's going to be there, Joel. I don't think there's anything we have to worry about there.
So question, though. Does the group of five have a championship for themselves?
No.
Do they have a game for that? They don't?
The American Athletic has a conference championship.
Has a conference championship, but it's not like I think there should. The group of five. Thank you for reminding me what that was called. I kept just calling them non-power five. The group of five, they don't have like their own championship game. It's just bowl games. They'll go to bowl games like everyone else.
Gotcha. Okay, so they don't have the risk of losing a conference championship game, but Notre Dame not having one and just moving ahead simply by lack of playing.
Yeah, right now it looks like Cincinnati will play Houston in their in the AAC championship game.
So they could lose that.
Yeah.
And get down while Notre Dame takes zero risk for the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is what they've done historically.
Yeah.
There's a real chance of Cincinnati looking past SMU too, because SMU they're 7-4, and what is it?
ECU.
Yeah, sorry, ECU. I keep saying SMU. Thanks, Tim. ECU. I was looking at their numbers today. They have a really good offense, but not a great defense. They've lost some close ones, but then got blown out by somebody. Can't remember who, but yeah. So if Cincinnati looks past ECU, then they're going to have some issues.
Yeah, they're a sneaky good team. They score a lot of points,
Mm-hmm.
and they've beaten some pretty decent teams. I mean, not great teams, but they almost beat South Carolina early in the year when you didn't know if South Carolina was going to be good or bad. But either way, that's a close game. They lost to Appalachian State, which isn't anything to be ashamed of. I mean,
App State's been good for a while. Yeah,
they have upset a lot of teams. UCF beat them, but that's one of those. I think they're on the same level, honestly. In general, those two teams. So definitely not an automatic win.
You're right. Right. This could be and especially now that they're in the top four, they could be looking past them to Houston, thinking conference champ. Like this could be a trap game for them.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that Houston and Cincinnati, while overall Cincinnati is ranked 4th, Houston's ranked 24th, but Houston actually is 8-0. They won more games, an extra game, and they're undefeated. And they have this low of a record.
I don't know what to think of that.
Right? Oh, sorry. They're 10-1 overall. They've lost one game. It was
8-0 in the conference.
Yeah.
Who'd they lose to?
Looking it up right now. Texas Tech. They lost to Texas Tech. First game of the year, they lost to Texas
Tech. Okay. Man. Yeah. And Houston, top 25. I mean, they're getting some level of respect, but 10-1 in the AAC. I mean, that's pretty good to be number 24.
I think he good again, though. You got to watch out for that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cincinnati, they're not walking in. Just because they're number 4, it's not automatic. So say Cincinnati loses, Notre Dame then gets the nod.
As of right now, they would get it by default as long as they beat Stanford this weekend.
Yeah. So I've a lot of football left to play. This doesn't mean anything And it is game week, folks. The game, Ohio State, Michigan, everything has led to here, this moment. And Michigan is better than they've been since 2012, probably. This is probably the best team they've had since 2012, I want to say, when Urban Meyer won. Or there was a 49-48 game that Ohio State won in overtime. There's been a lot of great games. It's only been 2 years now that Ohio State has whooped up on them and embarrassed them in 18 and 19. Didn't play last year because of the pandemic. But, yeah, Tim, Joel, thoughts on Ohio State, Michigan? Should Ohio State be worried?
No,
Not at all.
no, I don't think so. I think this is classic Jimbo. This is what Jim does. He gets people excited just enough to make Ohio State look good. That's what he's going to do again this weekend.
Is that what it is? I don't know, man. Their defense, they got a new defensive coordinator this year. His name's slipping my mind, but their defense is much more structured and more disciplined. And I don't know if we're going to be able to put up as many points as we have in the last few games.
Well, I think that Ohio State's going to learn from the Michigan State game. I think they're going to try to do something similar to what Michigan State did against Michigan. Yeah, and that was their worst defensive game of the year. And I think they're going to try to overpower them with the offensive line in the running game early and kind of set a standard there. And then once they get comfortable with that, then they're going to start doing those passes with those talented receivers, and it's going to be game over third quarter.
Yeah.
For me, I always worry about this game, no matter what the records are going into it. It is, it could be, they could be 11-0 and 0-11.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who's who, and it still find a way to make you have a panic attack during the game, to be a little bit concerned. So I never put it past them. Sometimes it just comes, games like that sometimes just come down to who wants it more, who has the bigger chip on their shoulder, and they find a way to pull it out, especially just a couple playmakers who get some key turnovers, a couple offensive or defensive penalties on our side that can make us look real bad or lose progress, or we just shoot ourselves in the foot because it's a high emotion game. So people do a lot of stupid stuff. People do a lot of good stuff in a high emotion game. People do a lot of stupid stuff in a high emotion game, and it can be good or bad.
Yeah. There is no guarantee to any of these Ohio State Michigan games. And I said at the beginning of the season, I'm not going to call it a rivalry anymore because Ohio State has just thumped them. But man, this year is feeling more and more like a rivalry. Seems like the players still think of it as a rivalry, and so I'm here for it. I think this is huge. And Michigan, they want it, man. They're so hungry, and Jim Harbaugh needs it now more than ever with his he got his pay cut in half. He needs this worse than ever. Well, they're going to come ready. Makes me nervous.
It'll be fun.
So, Tim, you mentioned Ohio State's great wide receivers. Did you see the snub this week?
No.
Where none of the Ohio State wide receivers are finalists for the Biletnikoff best wide receiver in the nation, even though they're top three in the nation. Like, they'll go 1, 2, and 3 in the draft if they were all going this year.
That's the problem with this kind of team, though. You have these players who are taking receptions and numbers away from each other on a week-to-week basis. So there are people out there who have better stats, but statistically, but that doesn't make them better players. But I think that's not unusual. It happens.
Yeah, but I think Jamison Williams has 1,200 yards receiving when Jackson Smith and Jigba has 1,100.
Yeah.
It's not a crazy big difference. And Jamison Williams would have been the 4th wide receiver on Ohio State's roster this year. 4th.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Is
number 1 at Alabama.
But you look at who looks like a star, the guy who's way above the rest of his receiving core, or the 3 guys who are comparable because they're all really good. You see what I mean? Like, that one guy stands out way more. He's much more memorable. Not that these guys aren't great players. Obviously, they're very good players.
The best screen in the nation, in the country.
Settle down.
They are. I think all 3 should be up here for the Biletnikoff. Get these
what you're missing
out of here. David Bell, Ohio State, our freshman cornerback made David Bell look like a scrub when they played Ohio State. Our freshman, true freshman, Denzel Burke made him look silly. He couldn't catch anything. I think he caught 2 passes against Ohio State.
Missing the point. They're taking the shine off of each other by each sharing in these numbers, these stats. That happens a lot. Like it's because they're all very good players. They don't look as good compared to the one memorable player for another school.
So if you're a voter, Tim, for this Blitnikoff, you're voting strictly on stats. Because I thought the award was for the best wide receiver in the country.
I wasn't talking about
stats.
The
best stats.
I was literally just
you just said that they took stats away from the 3 wide receivers because they're all 3 so good.
Shine away from each other. They're not as memorable because they're all good. But versus a player like Alabama who might have one wide receiver that stands out above the rest significantly, which is more memorable? 3 guys who are all really good, or one guy who is just blowing everybody off the field?
Kirk Herbstreit called our 3 wide receivers Earth, Wind, and Fire, Tim. Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's great. Sorry, I can't say. I couldn't make it with a straight face. What are you doing here, Kirk? Making it look stupid. Yeah.
But do you see what I'm saying? Honestly, is like it's. I can see where that comes from, and I'm not. I already told you they're great players. I started off this conversation by saying how great they are.
Yeah, they are great.
But it does draw the attention away from them when they're all having great seasons. It makes it look less memorable versus other schools who have one great receiver.
No, I hear what you're saying, but they're the 3 best wide receivers, and people should vote accordingly. Even if it takes the shine, we can look at them and be like, okay, did you see that? Did you watch the game, either of you, on Saturday?
No.
Chris Olave had maybe the best catch I've ever seen ever. Like
no
the
one's
way
questioning your talent.
Best.
You're not
They're the best. But if you're a voter and you're not voting for the best wide receiver, who are you voting for? Your vote, you've become irrelevant to me. This is what Joel Klatt had to say about it. He's on my side. Joel Klatt says, I'm a fan of each of these wide receivers, talking about the 3 on the list. They have had great seasons. However, the fact that none of the Ohio State wide receivers are on this list is an indictment on the award itself and reflects poorly on those that vote for it. Joel Klatt.
So which Ohio State receiver should be on that list? And don't say all of them. One.
All of them.
No.
If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's
okay.
Better.
And then if they had done that, you would have been taken saying, that's not right. He's not even the best receiver on this team.
You know what's funny? So I was talking to my barber this week, and we're like
every conversation starts.
Chris Olave is going to go down in history as one of the best Ohio State wide receivers of all time. He has the most touchdowns in a career than any other wide receiver. Beat David Boston's record. He's going to be, they're probably already making the bust of his head, that they're going to put in the Ohio State Hall of Fame. Like, it's probably already being made.
And he's the 3rd best receiver on the team.
He's the 3rd best wide receiver on the team right now. He's going to go down as one of the greatest, but he's the 3rd best on our team right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I really didn't mean to see your thunder. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good. Like, I'm glad that you see it that way too, because this team is just dripping with talent. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. But now they gotta follow through. Being talented is enough, right? You gotta go all the way.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of going all the way, did you hear what happened to Dan Mullen this week?
You get a new girlfriend? Get it?
Dan Mullen?
Go all the way.
His wife kisses the players and stuff. It's weird. Yeah, Dan Mullen's let go this week. I don't know if you heard.
I had heard. Yeah. Yeah, he could not go all the way. Is that how we want?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to do there.
It was good, man. It was good.
Deal with it. The good news is, in spite of all of that, did you hear about the commitment that Florida landed this week? Today?
No, even with Dan Mullen dropping the ball, they still are getting commit.
Yes, he's a 4-star, top 300 defensive lineman who was picking between Oklahoma, Ohio State, Miami, and Florida, and he picked Florida
for now. But yeah, that's great.
He said they asked him because he was like, I'm committed to this university and the fans and the players that are there right now. That's who I want to play for. He's like, I'm not worried about who the head coach is.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy you want on your team, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Wonder if we saw him. when we
He's
were
also
trying to,
from Oklahoma.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you remember when we were trying to get on the field at the Florida game? Wonder
We were
if he
so
was one of the players on the recruiting trip that week. Like we could have saw him
Great basketball.
walking out of the tunnel where we were trying to sneak into.
Yeah, it's very possible. But he's just saying it was just the culture of the university, how it is. I made sure I was picking the school for the school and the players that I'll be surrounded by.
That's actually good. That's a smart way to do it.
Yeah. So, the good thing about that is that's obviously an interesting time to make a pick like that. But I think that can help with momentum because we've lost a lot of players in the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their recruiting class has backed off.
Yeah.
So we still have 6 players in the 2022 class, but we have some work to do. So first we got to find a coach. That's the key right now. We got to find a coach.
Right. Picking the right coach for Florida is crucial. This is the most important hire maybe in the history of Florida.
Yeah. So since I'm biased, I'm not going to give you my opinion, but I'll tell you right now, the top programs looking for a head coach in order of the media is LSU, USC, and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then Washington, which is interesting. But those are kind of what the media is saying are the best jobs available right now.
In that order?
In that order, LSU, then USC, and then Florida, based on recruiting availability, fan expectations, winning history. Those are kind of the categories they're looking at. The downside for Florida, one of the reasons they're discrediting them is that it's hard to live in the shadow of Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of expectation. And so that's when you have these things like Dan Mullen, Jim McElwain. They get to the conference championship one year, they're fired the next.
Yeah.
Both of them. Because they just can't maintain that consistency of winning. Yeah. And they both had other flaws in their personal lives or professional lives that were issues, of course, as well. But I do agree with that. The fan expectation is if you're not Steve Spurrier or Urban Meyer, you got to go. You have 4 years where you're done. And that's a lot of pressure. So a lot of coaches don't want that, not that LSU is low pressure, USC is low pressure, because they both are very high pressure as well. But they don't necessarily have one coach who has been that face for a significant amount of time. And then everybody else just can't survive that.
Yeah, and Florida's sustainability has been in question for a long time. I mean, even they it seems like they have 4 losses almost every year. But a lot of times because the East is so bad, they still go to the conference championship game with 4 losses. So it just seems like expectations for Florida are unrealistic at times for what the program is in the conference they are.
I don't think that's true. I think that the expectation is very high because Florida should be able to meet that expectation in the East. I mean, in the East, SEC East. Now, granted, I say they're SEC East, but they play LSU every year,
right?
And they also play Florida State every year, which recently hasn't been a big deal, but historically it has been. As far as like competition level. So they are guaranteed 2 games every year that are one of the toughest matchups in the country.
Yeah, LSU just fired their coach too. I mean, they're not.
Well, they won a championship 3 years ago.
Yeah, they've had one good year. I mean, that's like, Ohio State. They've only won one national championship
in the last 15 years. I mean, they're not.
Yeah,
they're a really good program.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is Florida needs to bring back Urban Meyer next year. This is not like things are going.
He's just getting right down the road. Leave Jacksonville, head down to Gainesville.
There's a lot of rumors tying him to USC, actually.
Really?
Oh, really? You think he'll leave NFL after 1 year? Be like, this isn't for me. I think he's
absolutely.
Prideful. I think
he
he's
hates it.
prideful.
Look at his face. He hates it.
I don't know if they're going to give him a choice after this year. Do you think they will?
They may give him one more.
Yeah, so? He might get one more season because it's, rookie quarterback, a team that won 0 games last year. Like he's still building something, but with the off-field stuff, that could be
that doesn't
a driving force. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, who do you want? Pick your.
Who
coach.
I want?
Pick your coach.
I'm struggling with this decision because Billy Napier has no experience in in a big time conference as a head coach.
Mhm.
The Raging Cajuns are doing good things with him. He has experience under both Alabama and Clemson, which I can't think of another coach who can say that.
Right.
You know, having training under both of those guys. He has a long history of a successful assistant, but does that mean he's ready to take that next step? And, you know, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, Urban Meyer kind of did that path. You know, like he came to Florida from a Utah school that wasn't in a Power 5 conference at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it risky? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very risky. It's also kind of safe because it's like, well, you know, he's a young coach. He's learning. We have to give him some time. I honestly think Strickland, the athletic director, would get fired before this coach would.
Okay.
And then they would let the athletic director he had one more season, and then the new AD would pick the next coach. So I think that's kind of a safer pick. I would like to see Mario Cristobal, the Oregon coach.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's
a great recruiter. The players seem to love him. Now, my only concern is the X's and O side a little bit. He had to have some really good coordinators because I think he should be absolutely dominating the Pac-12, and he's not over the past couple of years. So that concerns me a lot. You know, I just not with all the resources they have at that school and the way every other school in that conference has been down. I don't understand how he has 2 losses this year.
Yeah.
So that concerns me a little bit, but he's from Florida. He went to Miami. He has strong ties there. He could probably recruit like no one else on the list in the state of Florida. That's why I'm looking at him as like probably my number 1 pick.
I like that. Now I say this is the biggest football coach in a long time. I don't know, because you remember at the beginning of the season when you said like when Ohio State lost to Oregon, this could be the beginning of the end for them or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'd say,
this could be the beginning of the end for Florida. If they make the wrong pick here and they have another losing season, I mean, it may not be a losing record for you. You may go 500, but this is a losing season for Florida. If you have another year of that, it might be a decade before you recover.
I don't agree with that. Going into next season, they will have the top of the line football facilities in the country. Their new facilities are going to be opening up. They have tons of money to work with, lots of boosters. I don't think that they'll be done for a decade. I mean, obviously it'd be a few years, granted, if they don't pick the right person, that's obvious. So then it would take time. But even with everything that's going on, they still have a top 30 recruiting class, which isn't good enough. But for a team that doesn't have a head coach right now, it's still pretty good. And it's only going to get better from here. I really believe that once they hire this coach, the momentum's going to pick up and it's going to improve. And so, there's a lot floating out there. And yes, they have to pick the right person to be immediately successful. But I think long-term, it's not like if we pick the wrong person, we're going to be Kentucky for the next 20 years. I don't think that the boosters are going to allow it. I don't think the program is going to allow it to happen like that. And that's the thing about young players these days too, is like you can turn a program around one way or the other very quickly. LSU in a negative way, but there have been other programs who I think have shown success quickly as well. So it can flip pretty quick. It can flip pretty quickly.
I think you're Florida State. If you have another season like this with a different coach, I think you're Florida State for the next couple of years. Maybe a decade is too harsh, but
well, of course. Yeah, because if we don't win, then that means you're starting all over. But you give a coach 3 or 4 years, so of course. Then
I don't think they'll give him 3 or 4 years. He might get 2, and then
depends
they're
who
on
it
to
is.
the next one. And then it's hard to recruit if it's like who's gonna, you don't trust any coaches. The expectations are too high, like you said, and you're not going to be able to pull in recruits.
It depends who the coach is. If they bring in Billy Napier,
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they're going to give him 4 years. They would fire Strickland after 3. Napier will be 1 more year. If he doesn't do well, then he would be fine. So they're going to give somebody 4 years. They're not going to do 2 years and you're done.
You have Kiffin 4 years. If they go after,
depends on what he does. Depends on what he says. But I'm hearing pretty strong rumors about him in Miami right now.
Miami?
Yeah,
that's a step down.
Not for him at this point. At Ole Miss, he's made a lot of really weird comments about Mississippi and the lakes, and have you seen his recruiting class right now? It's really low.
Is it?
Yeah. So I don't think he has any interest in staying in this program long term. He wants to get to a historic program, which I think for him, he thinks with the recruiting ties he had in South Florida for a few years, that this is a good step up for him.
Miami is not a step up from Ole Miss. No.
It's probably even. It's probably the same playing field, but the part of it is, would you rather play Alabama, LSU, Auburn every year, or would you rather play Clemson and the rest of that conference?
Right. If you're looking at it like that, ACC is more winnable.
Yeah. And you can recruit. What are they recruiting in Mississippi?
Right. I mean, it's SEC. I mean, that's like Texas A&M when they went to the SEC, their recruiting picked up.
Definitely. I mean, that helps. But you're trying to outcompete all those other SEC West teams in that same region, and it's hard to compete against that. Mississippi and Mississippi State have shown they can come up for a year or two, but then they drop all the way back down. You can't maintain that. I think Lane Kiffin understands that. He's smart enough to see, he's got to bring in really talented players, like elite level. And I think he's like, I don't want to guess because I don't know exactly, but I want to say he has like the 36th ranked recruiting class right now, which is like number 9 in the conference, number 10 in the conference.
Yeah.
So it's not good. And I think he thinks in his mind, I absolutely believe that he thinks he can make Miami elite again.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that. Yeah. All right. I think that's parallel, and I think that's a bad move for Kiffin, but more power to you, Lane Kiffin. We really need to bring back Kiffin's Corner, Tim. That was a good segment. Our very first year of doing podcasts, we had a nice segment called Kiffin's Corner where, cause he would always make crazy statements, and it was just really fun to follow the path of Kiffin. And so he's always holds a nice near and dear part of this show, I think.
Yes, always.
We always have an eye on him.
We're still waiting for him to get back to us coming on the show. So as soon as he responds, we'll get him on.
Yes, Kiffin's Corner. We got to bring it back, Tim, next year. All right, Tim, let's move on to our overreactions for this week. And then we'll do our top 4 and then wrap things up here. Oh, and then do our picks against the spread. So overreactions for this week. Tim, do you have any? Joel, do you have any?
Yeah. I kind of gave my first one away already when I said I think that the committee is going to find a way to jump Notre Dame over Cincinnati. I really believe they're going to do it. Like, I don't think it's going to be a popular decision. I don't think it makes sense in any way. Instead, the committee is going to hold their middle finger and be like, what are you going to do about it? Like, that's all it comes down to is like, we have no respect for this non-Power 5 school. We're going to put somebody in who's not even playing a conference championship and who lost to them, and we don't even care. Yeah.
So my overreaction is about a recruit that left LSU. So Elias Ricks has entered the transfer portal from LSU, and he was highly recruited from Ohio State. It came down between Ohio State and LSU. So the rumor is he left LSU to now come to Ohio State. And if that happens, he was the number 2 cornerback in the class. Do you know who the number 1 cornerback in the class was, Tim?
I do not.
It was Denzel Burke, who now plays for the Ohio State University. So if we can get Elias Ricks opposite of Denzel Burke, we'll have the 2 top-ranked cornerbacks in the class. Our defense will be the best defense in college football next year. The best. We will have easily the best team. I mean, we'll be number 1 going into the season after we win the national championship this year. And we will hold serve all the way through to go back-to-back championships. So that's kind of my 2 overreactions that I think Elias Ricks is going to come to Ohio State and make us a dominant defense. And my next overreaction is that Ohio State's about to do back-to-back natty runs.
I stopped listening about halfway through there. I was waiting to see if there was an overreaction or if you just wanted to brag about how you thought you were getting another cornerback.
No, there was two overreactions.
I found it finally, but no, I'm just joking. Joe, you have any overreactions?
I think Cincinnati needs to move up to number 2.
What?
I'm saying they need to move up number 2. Move Ohio State to number 3. Alabama can sit at 4. I know this is kind of leading into your next part of how would you change the rankings, your next segment, but that is my overreaction is I think One, I think it looks better having an 11-0 team up in your top two. Number two, I can't fault Cincinnati for their schedule. I think part of their schedule is more the fault of other teams' refusal to play them versus
Doesn't matter.
You can't keep teams out because the other teams refuse to play you and give you the opportunity to show yourself against them. You know
Sure
what I mean?
can.
No.
Play if Cincinnati would have won the games they had by the margin they should, then they would be number two. If you don't squeak by teams like Navy, if you don't squeak by teams like Tulsa, then you get to that number two spot. If you blow them out the way a top four team should blow out non-power fives, group of fives, then you get that number two spot. They didn't. So they're lucky to be at number four.
No, I moved them up. And honestly, I'm slightly biased. I really want to see Ohio State and Cincinnati play.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I really want to see that. Best way to make that happen. It is in the best interest of college football, bowl system to put those two against each other. It is going to be way better for ratings, which I hate that this is why they pick the teams that they do for where they do, but it would be way better for ratings to put those two against each other than to have Ohio State and Alabama.
You know where the ratings will be great, Joel? If Ohio State plays Cincinnati in the state of Ohio and
the state of Ohio. that's where the reality is. That's the reason Notre Dame gets in over Cincinnati because of ratings.
Because of ratings. Yeah.
Much more significant.
Yeah.
But I completely disagree with this isn't Cincinnati's fault. They can't help that nobody will play against them. That's not totally accurate. And just looking ahead at because we all know at this point, it's no secret. Like if you don't schedule, especially with non-power five, you have to schedule these opponents who are power five or give no shot. Right. And so I would be interested to see if Cincinnati would come out and say, well, we try to schedule these teams, but these teams won't play against us. Or really what it comes down to is teams aren't doing like a home and home. And that's what Cincinnati is demanding, which that's what UCF was trying to do a few years ago with Florida. And Florida's like, get out of here. Like,
right.
We're not doing that with
you. need us. We don't need you. Like that's
exactly. So they're doing a home away and a home with UCF in the future. But they're at a point now where Cincinnati, they're scheduling teams like Miami, Ohio, and as their non-conference schedule. And there's just you can't win with that. Their big opponents that they're scheduling are like random ACC teams like Boston College and one Nebraska matchup, I think in 2025. But outside of that, it's like Boston College or a Pitt or an NC State. And that's like their one-off. That's like their tough non-conference opponent that they have coming up in the next 10 years. Like they're not trying to schedule SEC teams or Big Ten teams other than Nebraska, which I think they're like looking at and like, oh yeah, let's keep Scott Frost there. We're loving this.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're putting a whole lot of effort outside of, I think they're more visualizing like, hey, get us in the Big 12 and we'll be okay.
And the best chance for Ohio State to play Cincinnati, Joel, would be if Alabama beats Georgia in the championship game, because then that moves Ohio State to 1, Georgia to 3, Cincinnati will stay at 4, Bama at 2. I think that's the way it would end up if Georgia loses to Bama. So that's how I think you get Ohio State, Cincinnati playing each other.
So question, if Michigan beats Ohio State, right, what happens with their conference championship game?
Michigan plays in the Big Ten championship game.
Okay.
It'd
so
be
Ohio
Michigan,
State
Wisconsin.
loses a shot. So there's no way of them both landing in top 4.
Right. Yeah. If this is it, like if Ohio State loses to Michigan, Michigan goes to the conference championship game, and Ohio State's out in some kind of New Year's Six bowl.
They would drop below Notre Dame for sure. They would not have a chance.
Right. Yeah. So they'd be out there. Yeah. And then Michigan would probably get their chance in the college football playoff and get embarrassed.
They'd lose to Minnesota. It'd be hilarious.
Well, it's going to be Wisconsin. I think it's going to be Wisconsin again. Pretty sure. I think, they've won 4 straight by a lot. I think they beat Minnesota head to head, didn't they?
I don't remember.
So it'll be Wisconsin is going to represent the West. again, and Ohio State the East, I think, if they beat Michigan. Like, there's no guarantee they beat Michigan. So
The tie with Iowa right now.
And Wisconsin has Minnesota at Minnesota this weekend.
Wisconsin plays Minnesota this week.
Yeah, this weekend.
Okay.
They beat Iowa though, so they have the tiebreaker. As long as they win, they'll be in.
Yeah. So,
Iowa plays Nebraska.
I could kind of call upset there. But I think Nebraska's second string quarterback, I think Martinez is hurt. I could be wrong. Anyway, yeah. So any other overreactions, folks? I gave my 2. Is that it? All right. Tim, what are our games? I'm sorry, folks. Let's do our top 4. Anything different from the committee from either of you, or are you okay with where the committee has these folks ranked?
Top 4. I mean, it's fine.
Georgia, Ohio State, Bama, Cinci.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're rewarding Ohio State for playing a top 10 opponent in Michigan State and the way they handled the game versus Alabama beating Arkansas by a touchdown, who's also ranked but not as high.
Right.
And Alabama hasn't looked as great in 2 of the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why they're kind of dropped. They're like Cincinnati, they dropped a little bit. And Ohio State's showing they're peaking at the right time. So I don't have any issues with the rankings right now. I think they're doing a good job of moving people around. I still think they're trying to get Cincinnati false hope and just pray that they lose.
Yeah.
Because I keep saying, I know I'm starting to keep harping on that, but I really don't think they would ever put Cincinnati in the actual top 4.
Wow. I think they get in, but if they win out, I think. So you know what? How Alabama played this last week against Arkansas. Arkansas's 21st. Alabama beat them by a touchdown. Alabama beat them by a margin that the 15th ranked team should have beat that team. And as I've harped on all year, Alabama is a top 15 team, not a top 4 team.
How is that relevant? Like a top 15 team.
If you're the 15th ranked team, if you're Wisconsin, I expect you to beat the 21st ranked team by a touchdown. If you're number 3, you should win by way more than that against the 21st ranked team in the country. So, yeah. Again, this just aids my argument that Alabama should be ranked 15th. Not
when you're playing top 25 teams, especially conference opponents, then I don't think that winning by a touchdown is really a bad thing. I'm not saying it's good enough, but I'm saying I don't think that makes you not a top 15 team.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State beat Purdue by like 100. Ohio State beat Michigan State by like 100. This is how you're supposed to, if you're in the top 4, right. This is how you're supposed to play.
Big Ten is weak this year. You're absolutely right. You convinced me.
No. The SEC is weak this year, and Alabama is squeaky. Alabama looks more like Oklahoma this year.
You're 9-point win against Penn State then. What should your ranking been at that point?
I don't know. Penn State always plays us tough. Arkansas doesn't always play Alabama tough. It's not the same thing.
Okay.
It's not the same thing. They do.
Right. Because rankings don't mean anything. It's opponents. Conference opponents don't.
Well, also, Tim, that was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago. And you just said Ohio State's peaking at the right time. Alabama is slumping at the right time, if you want to. So it's a difference in where they are as a team now versus 5 weeks ago.
You're deflecting.
No, I'm not. That's a solid point.
I give Ohio State credit for peaking at the right time, but I was saying if that's a comparison you're giving, what do you say when Ohio State played Penn State, who was ranked I think 20th at the time, didn't impress in that game?
Beat them by 9. I think Ohio State was ranked like 6th in that moment at that time of the year. So And again, that was 6 weeks ago. Ohio State's a different team this week. Ohio State is better than they were 6 weeks ago. Alabama is worse than they were 6 weeks ago.
See, I always say this: whenever you're a top 10 team, every game you play is that team's best.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So once you're in that, like, I give some grace to having some closer games, because while you had that 1 week that you prepared for that team, you know that half of practice for the last 3 weeks they devoted to talking about you.
Oh yeah.
Because who are their big game coming up. So
Agreed.
while there might not always be big margins for those top teams, I'm okay with that because I understand the level which those teams are going to come play you versus how they play the rest of their weeks. Because them just doing decent against you is what keeps some of those coaches their jobs.
Yeah, I think that's why Scott Frost got his job. Got to keep his job because of how he played Ohio State close. I mean, I just think that Ohio State is much better than they were then. The points they're putting up against Purdue and Michigan.
I don't think anyone was disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
I said from the beginning of this conversation, they're peaking at the right time.
Yeah. So Alabama is not. And they should be 15th. Maybe I'd give them 11th, somewhere around in there.
But you keep saying you've been saying this all along, but you just kind of go against your own point. A few weeks ago, Alabama was outscoring their opponents 59-3, 52-24, 49-9 against SEC opponents, but you weren't giving them credit then. Even then, you were saying they were 15th. These teams aren't that good. They're 15th ranked team in the country. So
yeah, I stand by it.
But you were wrong then, clearly. Like you're more right today than you were 6 weeks ago. Because you were way off then. Maybe
it was a stretch, but watching the teams play, it shows me that they're not as good as they should have been, as everyone thinks they are, not as good as everyone thinks they are. So.
But you think everyone who's not in the Big Ten is not that good? So
no, I think Georgia's good. Georgia's a good team.
You discredited Georgia quite a bit this year as well.
Their offense.
Yeah,
but they're a good team.
But Indiana's good.
Georgia is good. Alabama is okay.
I love this game.
And that's about it. Who else is good in the SEC this year?
I mean, ranking-wise,
Kentucky?
Mississippi's up there.
Who is? I think Kentucky's Mississippi State. Yeah, boy, we're reaching here for good teams in the SEC.
I didn't say Mississippi State.
Oh, you say Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Yeah, still a reach.
They're ranked 9th in the country, is what I was saying.
Yeah. To call them good.
That's the committee's reach. It's not my reach. I'm just telling you the facts.
That's because of the lack of options, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mississippi State, maybe Arkansas. I mean, yeah, not many good teams in the SEC this year, Tim. Can't wait for bowl season. Just cannot wait.
So you said last year didn't go so well for you.
Yeah. This year will be different. Last year was COVID. It was weird. Big Ten only got like 6 games last year. It was weird.
Yep, and they all got credit for it and got bowl games and got crushed.
Yeah, that was a weird year. Shouldn't have. Poor management by the Big Ten. All right, my top 4 goes something like this: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and then Cincinnati. And then you could have number 5, Notre Dame, 6. I don't know. That's about as far as I can go. Oklahoma State. Yeah. 7.
Mike, you're saying it and you don't even believe yourself. Like, you don't even believe yourself. Nick Saban on the field by himself can beat some of these teams.
Oh, yeah. Put Nick Saban with
70-year-old Nick Saban.
70-year-old Nick Saban. He'll out-strategize every single one of them.
By himself.
Yeah.
1-11.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's do it, Tim. Picks against the spread. How'd I do last week?
Not so well, actually.
What?
It was a draw.
I went 3 for 4. You went 4 for 4. We both went 3 for 4. Yeah.
I just meant you didn't gain any.
I didn't gain anyone. I thought I was going to.
I didn't either. So last week, I thought that Michigan State would cover the spread of -19, and you did not, and that didn't work out for me. And that was the one that you got over on me on that. We both took Arkansas to cover against Alabama, and they did. We both picked Missouri to cover against Florida, and they won in overtime, which we really didn't even get into today, but who cares? Florida losing isn't news at this point.
Yeah, we didn't. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, they lost in overtime. Mizzou decided to go for 2.
Which is exactly what I would have done in their situation.
Yeah.
It was smart.
It was smart, and yeah, they got you.
And I'm okay with it because it cost Mullen his job. So it was like, all right, there you go.
He had to go.
And then in the last one was the Oregon-Utah game. And I'm pretty sure your words were, if Oregon wins this game, you may as well just go ahead and buy me that jersey.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
Utah, they were favored by 3 and they won. And so we stalemated this week. Both went 3 for 4. You're still up by 3 with this week and the conference championship games left to go.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
A lot of pressure on you.
Have you realized this, Tim? But we're really good at picking against the spread this year.
We really are.
If you're following along with us, you're making money. Like if you're betting with us, you've made some money this year because we're having, really good season picking against the spread.
I have made some money this year.
Yeah.
All right. So we have 4 games coming up this week.
Okay.
We're going to pick. And how do you want to do this? Like, you want to pick all the games first?
No.
As we've done in last year's?
We do that championship week, right? I don't think we've done it 2 weeks.
I think we did like 5 weeks in a row.
Because I was down by like 15 or something like that.
No, that's fine. We'll do it next week. If it's still the same. But we have number 2, which is one of the biggest games of the week. I guess it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Number 2, Ohio State against number 5, Michigan. Ohio State on the road is favored by 8.5. I am taking Ohio State with their 8.5.
8.5 at the big house. Let's come back to that one. Go to the next one.
All right. Number 10, Oklahoma is traveling to Oklahoma State. At home, Oklahoma State is favored by 4.
Oklahoma State by 4. I'm sorry, Joel, did you want to pick that Ohio State-Michigan game? I skipped you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. I think Ohio State's taking it.
Ohio State.
It makes me nervous. I think they lead with at least a 2-touchdown lead.
14. Okay.
At least.
All right.
We'll go to the Oklahoma State game. What do you think about that one, Joel?
What would you say the spread was?
-4 Oklahoma State at home. Basically a toss-up.
Yeah.
Just pick them.
I think Oklahoma State will beat that.
All right.
I'm also going Oklahoma State, Tim.
I knew you would. That's why I went Oklahoma.
Okay.
Either a really good strategy or a really bad one.
Who has to make up ground here?
Me. I'm down by 3. So I'm high risk, high reward. Or something like that. The next one, we have number 9, Mississippi, traveling to Mississippi State, who has actually been on a hot streak lately. They're playing really good football the last few weeks. And Mississippi State at home is favored by 1.5. I'm taking Mississippi in this game.
Taking Mississippi State, actually.
It's made up 2 games just like that.
Yeah.
Joe, you think they're bumping off? You think Mississippi is bumping off Ole Miss this week?
Yeah. At home, 1.5. Basically a pick 'em, and I'm going with the home team.
Yeah. No, I'm going Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, man.
All right, and then we have Florida State traveling to Florida. Florida, 3-point favorite at home. I will be at this game.
Yeah.
I'm very nervous about it. Don't lose at home to this team.
What's the spread here?
3 points Florida favorite at home. I am taking Florida State to cover because at least if I lose, I win something.
Yeah, I was going to pick Florida State there as well. I might pick them outright after firing your coach. Well, there's that rally mentality.
Exactly. Knox is fired up too.
Ooh, it's toughy.
This is a toughie. Give me Florida on this one, actually.
Okay.
I'm going rally mentality here.
And now I'm really conflicted in this game.
You could lose twice on that.
No, I wouldn't want to win one or lose one. You know what I mean? Like either Florida wins and I win, or Florida loses and I win in here, so I still get a win either way.
Little hedge there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot to lose at this point. Like if you lose another game, it's like, well, Guess we don't get to go to a bowl game this year. Play University of New Orleans or something. I don't even know if it's school. All right, Joel, who do you have? Florida, Florida State.
I'm gonna take Florida State on this one. It's bad momentum.
So you guys have picked the same on all of them so far.
Except for one. He took Oklahoma State with you.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Shipe, it's time to
Ohio
make this.
State, Michigan, 8.5 in favor of Ohio State. Gosh, this is such a hard pick.
When you know you want to take Michigan to cover just so we can be different on every single game this week.
I know.
You can't say all the great things you said about Ohio State being dominant and not think that they can cover 8 points.
Well, but you also said it's a
rivalry
right?
game.
You've gone both ways in this one in your mind already.
I have. I don't know. I'm just going to go Ohio State. I'm going to play safe.
Playing it safe. Oh, as far as because I already went with
Worst case scenario, we tie going into championship week. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Worst case is actually Michigan winning this game, and you could have gone with that, or Ohio State winning a close game, and then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think losing. I think you'd rather have Michigan covering and then lose. You know, does that make sense? At least you'd feel a little less bad.
But I'm just looking at it as I could lose the 3 games were different and still be okay going into champ. If I'm wrong on all 4 and you take a 1-game lead, I don't like my chance.
I don't even think you can record next week.
All right. I would still be crying myself to sleep every night if that were the case. Ugh. All right. Final thoughts, Tim, Joel. Big week going into college football. It is rivalry week. We didn't even talk Iron Bowl. Chances of Auburn upsetting Alabama, which I think are kind of good.
Should have put that. Do we want to put that game in?
Oh,
you want to add that game in here?
We can. Yeah.
You've trashed talked Alabama so much. Let's put them in. That makes things interesting. All right, so Alabama going to Auburn. Alabama is favored by 19.5.
Alabama's favored by 19.5.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, give me Auburn on that one. It's a lot.
I forgot to tell you, I don't know if you heard, Bo Nix is out for the rest of the year.
Oh, never mind.
Late. You already said it.
No, get out of here. I'm taking that. Well,
you can't take it back.
I don't know anything about this game then.
I don't even know Auburn's record.
They've lost 4 games this season, I think. They lost to Penn State early.
They lost 5 games.
5 games? Yeah.
Yeah, they just lost to South Carolina.
Yeah, give me Bama then. I didn't know that. I didn't have all the information here, Tim. Yeah, give me Bama.
That's not my fault. I shouldn't have said anything. You already made the pick. What do you have, Joel?
I think Alabama's just gonna walk over them.
Yeah, there for sure.
Yeah.
A, T, and J.
Doesn't sound like a 15th ranked team to me if you're given a 20-point favorite, and that's
against an unranked team with their second string quarterback. Yeah, the 15th ranked team should win by more than 20 against a 5-loss team that lost to Penn State, who you were talking crap about earlier, and playing Alabama. Yeah, playing the 15th ranked team in Alabama. Yeah, 15 should beat Alabama. It should beat Auburn by 21.
All right. Well, there we go.
There we go. All right. Final thoughts, folks. Wrapping this episode up for the college football championship. Not the college. What am I thinking? Gosh, I need to edit. For the week before rivalry week. Golly. You guys have anything? Wrap it up?
I haven't. My season has been over for a while as far as like my hopes. My only hope now is to come back and win these spreads. So
right.
We got this. 2 more weeks.
2 more
Feel
weeks.
pretty good about it.
Yeah. And this is the Buckeye season rolling into 1 game here. Everything's on the line for the next. It's March Madness. There's no doubt about that for Ohio State this week. Win in advance. It's been this way for the past several weeks. Win in advance. That's what we're up against here. So go Bucks. beat Michigan. Let's go.
Go Gators.